Hi everybody, Jordan Blotcher here, aka the Sports Card Lawyer, and I'm back with another video and another pick for you. So for this video, I'm going to be discussing a budget pick of the day, and we're going to be talking about a player who is not commonly purchased in most sports card circles. I would say there has never been too much excitement surrounding this player. He spent the first many years of his career with a perennial loser in the Detroit Lions, and so there was never any, incredibly illustrious market for his cards. However, last year everything changed when he was traded to the Rams, and we all know what player I'm talking about by this point. I haven't said his name yet, but we all know who I'm talking about. It's Matthew Stafford. So of course the Rams won the Super Bowl last year, and so that sort of caused an increase, a spike in the interest in Matthew Stafford cards, because the conversation used to be, well, can he really make, the Hall of Fame? I mean, yeah, he has a ton of passing yards and a really great completion percentage, and yes, he might be an elite quarterback, but, a lot of his best throws, they're coming in garbage time, and the Lions are, they're losers. And so can he ever really make the Hall of Fame with that record? Well, now he's won a Super Bowl. And the Rams are well positioned to make another great run in the NFC this year. And so Matthew Stafford at least there needs to be a conversation about him and his cards. And his cards can absolutely be a great buy, just like any other player's cards, if we notice that it's trading too far below its trend line. So let's first just start by taking a look at this graph so we can understand the potential of Matt Stafford cards more broadly. The card that we're looking at here is his 2009 Topps number 430 base in PSA 10. One of the things about Matt Stafford cards is that they are extremely low population in PSA 10. For example, this card, there's only 246 PSA 10s in the world. You don't see them up for auction all that often. There's just not a gigantic population of Matt Stafford cards in PSA 10. And so that means if you are a person who has them, you get to sort of set the market, because if somebody wants to buy it from you, they're going to need to pay whatever it is you and the few other people who might be selling them at any given time are asking. The card is very different than a Joe Burrow optic base in PSA 10, where you're going to see thousands in PSA 10. I mean, the supply and demand for that card is going to be very wonky, because at any given time you'll be able to sign on to eBay and you'll be able to see 100 of them for sale. You're never going to see that with the Matt Stafford 2009 base. At most, you're going to see 3 or 4 for sale on eBay at any given time, and the scarcity of the card will ultimately cause its value to go up. So we can sort of see what happened in September of last year after he was traded and the Rams got off to a pretty good start. This was a $720 card at peak. Then when the playoffs were going on and when the Rams won the Super Bowl, this card spent a considerable amount of time, several weeks, trading above $400, almost at $500, and then they won the Super Bowl and the off season happened, and now the card trades at $150, which is of course much lower than the $720 peak. In fact, it's almost 80% below where the card traded at the end of September last year, which is absolutely insane. And so we'll do our normal analysis. Our first thing that we want to look at is, the slope of the trend line. Of course, our preference is for a relatively flat trend line. That's the gold standard. It's not what we have here. Nowadays, a lot of cards that we see have a negative sloping downward trend line because the card market is down somewhat over the course of the last year. Trend lines just aren't up across the board. They're generally downward sloping. We see it with Mahomes, we see it with Brady, we see it with Stafford, we see it with Burrow, we see it with Herbert, we see it with a lot of the top quarterbacks. We see downward sloping trend lines, but that doesn't mean that there are no good buys. When we look at this card, the trend line appears to be right around $250. somewhere between 250 and 275 probably. And most recently, this card has been selling between $135 and $150. So we do our normal calculation. We do the 150 current price, and we divide it by the current trend line price, which is about $260. We do 150 divided by 260, and we find that this card is trading at about 58% of its trend line, which is very, very low relative to the trend line. Because as we expect, this card at some point in time is going to trend back towards its mean and arrive at its trend line or trade above its trend line, especially if the Rams get off to a good start this year, like most analysts and pundits expect that they will. Most people tend to think that Matt Stafford is going to make progress this year and not regress in his second year with the offense, making them one of the front runners to win the NFC altogether. And even though we're not especially interested in speculating on whether or not Matt Stafford is going to have a good year, we can't help but recognize that this card has traded well over 300%, 400%, even almost 500% at the end of September of where the card is trading today. And so it creates an absolutely amazing buying opportunity. If we can get the card at 58%, sell it when it goes back to its trend line and get 90%, we can make 33% on our $150 investment in a relatively short period of time. So for every $150 we spend, we expect that we should be able to make at least $50 or $60 on this exact card. And so if you're balling on a budget and you're looking for a card you can buy that you think is going to go up in value in the short to medium to 1 year term, then this is a great card to buy, especially because if you pay $150 for it and then it rises back to its trend line, we'll say 260, you might be able to actually get $300 in trade for it. So if you're constantly looking at the trend lines and you're paying attention, and this card goes back to its trend line and suddenly is trading at 260, you might be able to get $300 worth of another card, basically double your money without actually taking any cash in return. So it's just a mechanism of growing your bankroll over time by trading cards that were below trend line when they rise back to the trend line, and even being able to capture an extra 5 to 10% value on that card. And so if I were looking at the best card to buy for $150 right now, I would be looking to target this one. I think it's a really excellent buy. I think you're going to have no trouble making $70 to $80 on it, at least down the road. If Matt Stafford comes out and throws for 400 yards in week 1 or something crazy like that, you may immediately be able to dump this for $300 even in the short term. But if you end up needing to hold in the medium or long term, over the course of a year, I would expect this card to generate somewhere between a 30 and 50% investment. So that's my balling on a budget pick of the day. As always, drop a comment or leave me feedback. Like this video, whether you agree or disagree with my analysis. I love the conversation, and I love sharing my picks and insight with you. So thanks for tuning in.